What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Do you think the Warriors should have bent to what Klay requested from them? Assuming it's difficult, but I doubt it's super difficult. They pay the player what they think the player can contribute to the future, but they shouldn't pay more to what they have done. So this is an interesting kind of dynamic with the Klay Thompson deal. It's like, did the Warriors owe something to Klay? Now, most of this has to do with timing. Like, even just the difference between when Draymond renegotiated his deal versus Klay is massive. And first of all, a couple different things. I think Draymond's a better player right now than Klay is, because Draymond is still one of the best defensive players in the world. Klay has taken steps back on both ends of the floor, right? But even then, even if we remove that context, Draymond's deal was negotiated at a time when the Warriors felt closer. They missed the playoffs this year. Out of 15 teams in the Western Conference, they were in the bottom 5. They allowed 10 teams in, and they didn't even make that list. In addition to that, Steph had a rough end of the season. For roughly the last third of the season, he didn't look like himself. He looked like a shell of himself. And now, I think there's some context there. There was fatigue, wear and tear. I think he was a little banged up. I personally think Steph's going to come into next season kind of on a little bit of a revenge tour, and I think Steph is going to look a lot like the old Steph next season. But at the same time, the ownership group in the front office, I think they view that as kind of like a risk element there. Then in addition to that, when you look at Klay Thompson in terms of loyalty, if I'm the Warriors, I'm saying, well, remember when you got hurt and we paid you max dollars 2 years to basically rehab back-to-back injuries, right? Like, the Warriors extended him a massive olive branch and a massive demonstration of loyalty when he tore his ACL after the 2019 finals. And so, again, like, I don't necessarily think loyalty plays much of a role here. I think it was just an honest evaluation of the situation. I think the Golden State front office and ownership group does not think they're close enough, and I think their moves have demonstrated that. Letting Klay go for nothing, letting Chris Paul go for nothing, not using his salary, turning down some sort of fringe aggressive deals. I think that that's an indicator of what the Warriors front office is telling us. They're telling us that they don't think this team is particularly close, and if they did, I think that we would see more aggression from them. We have some more Warriors. Actually, we'll get to this next Warriors question first, and then we'll go back. What is the realistic Warriors path forward? They effectively lost Poole and Klay for nothing, plus more considering they gave Poole plus assets to get Chris Paul. Markkanen is the only realistic obtainable improvement, but there isn't enough trust. But is there enough trust in Steph and Dre to make one more run? So here's the thing. Even if they don't do anything, you still have some high-quality starters. You have 4 high-quality starters, in my opinion. Steph and Draymond. I think DeAnthony Melton's a high-quality starter. If he's healthy, I think Warriors fans are going to love that guy. I think he helps in a ton of different ways. I'm a believer, right? Andrew Wiggins, I view as a high-quality starter. Obviously, he's had his lumps over the last couple of years, but it's, he's one of those guys where, like, you start talking about Andrew Wiggins trades, and then the players that come back in a deal like that are going to have some flaws of their own, right? So you still have 4 high-quality starters, right? So, like, let's say that they do just slide Kuminga in there and they just rock with that 5 and they start the season 32-22. Like, they just get off to a good start, right? In that case, then I think you could potentially convince the Warriors front office to make a more aggressive deal at the deadline. And to be clear, there's not a lot of great options right now. You want to trade for Jeremy Grant? Well, there's a little bit of a, Jeremy Grant's a guy that, like, over the last few years has wanted to play in smaller markets under low pressure and put up scoring numbers. The Warriors are going to need him to score the basketball, but they're also going to need him to do a lot of dirty work and buy into a 5-out system as more of a cog, right? Like, is that a great basketball fit? I have the same concerns about Jeremy Grant for the Lakers. Like, I think it could work great, but I also think it could work poorly. Like, there's real risk there. Jeremy Grant's a risky pick. Brandon Ingram, kind of a funky basketball player that's tough to plug and play because he needs to have the ball in his hands and he's a mid-range pull-up shooter. What about Zach LaVine? Well, all of the injury issues and his massive contract that he has moving forward. Like, right now, the options don't look great, but we don't know what the options are going to look like in February. And so honestly, like, the most realistic Warriors path forward is they nailed the MLE signing, in my opinion, for what? Okay, so let's take a look at the bigger picture. You release Chris Paul, you let go of Klay Thompson. Those pull you out of that second apron back into the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. That opened the door for you to go sign DeAnthony Melton. Now, is that the best option? No. Obviously, the best option would have been re-sign Klay Thompson, try to trade Chris Paul's contract for a star of some kind out there, a higher-powered player out there of some kind, and you include Kuminga as the asset or draft compensation, whatever it is. Obviously, that's the most aggressive move, but that's really overextending yourself with a lot of associated risk, right? So the Warriors took a low-risk, low-expense move. They got out of the second apron. They get down into that non-taxpayer mid-level exception range where they could get DeAnthony Melton, a high-level starter, in my opinion, when he's healthy. The market on DeAnthony Melton is low because he got hurt last year. But I look at DeAnthony Melton as kind of like a rough approximation of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's a similar type of do-everything, rock-solid NBA starter at the two-guard position. So you've got Steph and DeAnthony. It's a really good 1-2. Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, 3-4, 3-5, whatever you want to call it. You've got your kind of starting foundation there. You go into next season, if Steph plays like a superstar, if DeAnthony Melton is healthy, if those guys just have a good camp and Jonathan Kuminga gets a little better year over year, you go into the season, then maybe you can reinvigorate the front office into believing in Steph Curry and Draymond Green as a championship potential core again. But I don't think we're going to get a super aggressive Golden State move this summer. It just doesn't seem like it's on the table. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm hoping they do. I want Golden State to be aggressive. I just don't love any of the options out there right now. I don't think they can afford Lauri Markkanen. Maybe they can. We'll see. But judging on the Mikal Bridges deal, which is a similar type of deal, I don't know. And then also you trade for Markkanen, you have to immediately extend him to a long-term max, probably in the department of 4 years and $160 million. So there's just a lot that goes into an aggressive move right now. So I kind of understand it. But at the same time, I'd hate to see Steph go down with a mediocre team. And so from that standpoint, I'd like to see them eventually do something aggressive, but this just feels more like a deadline type of move. And here's the thing. If you go into next season and Steph looks like the same player he did at the end of last year, which is a guy that's below the superstar tier, if he looks like that, then that's kind of the writing on the wall anyway for where this whole dynasty was going to begin with, right? So I think that's the route that's most realistic for that front office. It's what I expect. It's not necessarily what I prefer, but I think it's the direction we're going to see them go. And most of that, the all-in type of deal is more just me thinking like a basketball fan because I want to see Steph Curry compete for championships because he's one of my favorite players ever, right? That's just a basketball fan opinion. In terms of the actual logistical realities of doing that as a front office, it's just complicated.